Welcome to the second half of the morning. I'm Betsy Stapleton, and I have the great pleasure of hosting our guest speakers for the morning. And the first one we have is Rosemary Romero from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And she's going to be telling us about CDFW's plan, monitoring plan for reintroduction. So, Rosemary?
Thank you, Betsy. So today I'm going to be, as Betsy mentioned, giving you some of the details that are included in our monitoring plan, the Klamath River Anadromous Fishery Reintroduction and Restoration Plan. And I'll be giving you also an update on what is currently underway by CDFW and work that is planned for 2025. And I'll also mention some things we conducted in preparation for dam removal. I'm not going to be focusing on hatchery-related plans in the interest of time. And so if you are interested in hatchery-related plans, then I will direct you to the QR code on the screen here, where you can get the full monitoring plan online and see all those details if you're interested. So we've heard about the dam removal process schedule a lot this morning, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but it's basically the timeline that was planned for dam removal, and my date is incorrect, so apologies for that. In my notes, I had that the 26th was when the coffer dam was completely removed, and I think that was in our planned date, but it didn't actually end up happening until October 2nd. So that would be basically the date at which the Klamath River was open to anadromous fish again. In our plan, so this is a figure from the plan, we have outlined in blue on this map with data that was provided to us by ODFW and the Klamath tribes in 2021. Basically, the extent of anadromy that was anticipated in with the removal of the 4 lowermost dams on the Klamath River, which are indicated by the red dots. So those are the 4 that have been removed. The 2 Kopkos are really close, so it looks like 3 dots on the map. And then the 2 remaining dams, Link and Keno in Oregon. And we're not the only ones monitoring in the basin, of course, as you're all well aware. But in addition to the Klamath River Renewal Corporation's monitoring required for dam removal that RES has been leading, CDFW has put together this plan, and ODFW also has put together a plan for the reintroduction of anadromous fish in the Upper Klamath Basin and implementation plan for reintroduction of anadromous fishes into Oregon portion of the Upper Klamath Basin. It's a very long title, but if you can search that online if you're interested in details on the Oregon plan monitoring. And as well as that effort, CalTrout has been funded for a collaborative sonar project that is included in the CDFW plan. And there are many others doing research in the area and monitoring in the area, including U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Creek Tribe, and Yurok Tribe, to name a few. I will only be mentioning related projects that others are participating in if they were referenced in our monitoring plan. And this is just a slide to make sure that we acknowledge all of the, well, not all, but a lot of, because this is not a complete list, the people who came together to make this project possible and are continuing to work on monitoring efforts post-dam removal. And the plan itself was developed in collaboration with state, federal, and tribal agencies. So here is our geographic area to be monitored. This is another figure from our plan where we focus in on the orange line basically identifies the area that we're focusing on for our monitoring plan, the dam removal reach from Iron Gate Dam's historic location to the state line, and identifying, and the plan identifies tributaries that were important for sustaining anadromous fish, salmonids in particular. So Scotch and Camp Creek down here, Jenny Creek, Fall Creek, and Shovel Creek. So those are the tributaries that we're focusing on for our monitoring efforts. And the monitoring plan is a 4-phase monitoring plan using an adaptive management strategy. So we're going to be reassessing as we go and as we collect data. The first phase focuses on reintroduction. So essentially, and this is a volitional reintroduction of salmonids, so to areas where they were historically, they had a historic natural range and have since been extirpated or become extinct. And that will focus on monitoring coho, steelhead, and chinook. And the monitoring for reintroduction is going to be tailored toward both adult and juvenile life stages, so that we're monitoring the entire life cycle of these species. The second phase focused on establishment, and we'll be looking more at persistence of populations in the newly available habitat in the dam removal reach. And phase 3 then builds from those phases and focuses on abundance and productivity of both adults and juveniles. And that data is really important for fisheries management of steelhead and salmon, and also for conservation management for anadromous salmonids and Pacific lamprey. Phase 4 will, of course, build on the data collected in the first 3 phases and focus on understanding spatial structure and diversity using occupancy of adults and juvenile salmonids. And those, the first phase, phase 1 reintroduction, and phase 3, the abundance and productivity, will be implemented in year 1. So we're currently in the process of implementing monitoring to understand adult abundance and juvenile immigration, because that's going to be really important for management decisions for fall run chinook that happen annually. And so the adult monitoring will consist of counting stations or video weirs and juvenile immigration traps during the juvenile season. And there's also sonar monitoring plans. And this map is the conceptual plan that we have for where we plan to monitor in the coming years, now that the dams are out. And so now that I've discussed, let's see, yeah, oopsie, we'll just leave that. We'll go back to that conceptual plan as I tell you more about the different pieces of the monitoring that we have planned. But in preparation for this, CDFW Heritage Wild Trout Program had a survey plan for 2023 to come out to Shovel Creek and basically get an understanding of where Omicus were in Shovel Creek and the genetic, and to collect genetic information. So 95 total fish were tagged in the summer of 2023, 62 rainbow trout, 33 brown trout, and they were tagged with pit tags, and they were measured, weighed, and genetics were collected. The data has not yet been released in a report form yet, but we hope that that will happen in the future. We also received some funding from, we received, yes, pit tag array from the National Marine Fisheries Service, and we're able to install that into Shovel Creek. Unfortunately, the brains and solar panels were stolen from that site, so that pit tag antenna is not currently operational. We had hoped to detect some of these fish as they moved out of Shovel Creek following this effort, and unfortunately we weren't able to do that, but we are currently working with partners to try and figure out if we can get replacement parts to get that station back online. We also had staff from the Wairika office go out to Jenny Creek later that summer and tag an additional 24 rainbow trout so that we could see if we pick up on these individuals once the dams are removed and there's access to lower in the river. Okay, so then moving on to this summer, this past summer, staff from our office conducted some habitat typing and snorkel surveys to better understand habitat for oversummering juveniles. We wanted to get an idea of where Omicus were in the recently exposed footprint area and where they were utilizing habitat above the reservoir rims. And so here on this slide, I have the tributaries that we were able to survey, listed from north to south. And the filled in fish indicates tributaries in which we detected Omicus in the newly exposed reservoir footprint habitat. And then those open fish indicate where we had abundant Omicus upstream of the reservoir rim. And so Fall Creek had both Omicus present and abundant in the footprint habitats and above the reservoir rim. Jenny Creek, we only detected abundant fish above the Omicus above the reservoir rim, and Shovel Creek does not have a footprint. So the mouth is located above the reservoirs, but Omicus was abundant throughout Shovel Creek and the reaches that we were able to survey due to private property access. All age classes were observed in Shovel Creek, Fall Creek, and Jenny Creek where Omicus were observed. And so they looked like robust populations of Omicus. And the other creeks were surveyed, but we did not observe Omicus, and we were only able to survey in the lower footprint habitat. So those bold blue tributaries are the ones where we had some private property access above the rim. We hope to repeat these surveys in the summer, especially once there are coho in the system, but the frequency is going to be dependent on funding. Oh, and occupancy modeling is also pending for that project as well. So in addition to our submarine fisheries monitoring, we also installed some temperature and dissolved oxygen loggers this summer. So as of July 21st, in some locations indicated here by the purple stars for temperature loggers, and then we're also collecting dissolved oxygen data where those blue circles are on the map. So they're co-located to where we hope to install our juvenile traps in the juvenile season, or where we might have weirs present right now. And so some are close to the confluences with the Klamath, and others are higher up, closer to the reservoir rim area. There are many other organizations collecting more water quality data in this area. So this is just what CDFW has taken on. For example, I know there's going to be radio telemetry stations installed at certain locations, and there will be co-located temperature loggers with those radio telemetry stations that are being managed by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We are currently in the process of monitoring adult escapement, or collecting the data in order to be able to provide escapement estimates. And CDFW is focused on the tributaries, as I mentioned before. So we have fish counting facilities, which are video weirs specifically installed in Shovel Creek, Jenny Creek, and Bogus Creek. Bogus Creek is just downstream of Iron Gate Dam. And we've been monitoring there for at least 8 years prior to the present, and we're going to continue to monitor there into the future. And these video weir locations were operational. So Shovel Creek, October 16th, and Jenny on the 26th, and Bogus Creek on September 5th. And I will give you results of those at the end of my talk. There's also a main stem sonar project that has been installed at the former footprint of Iron Gate Dam. And so that was operational October 15th and has been collecting data. They haven't finished reviewing the data on that, but they're in the process of working on that. And so that is a joint project. So while we're focusing on spawning ground surveys and the video weirs in the tributaries, we're also providing 1 day of staff support to the sonar project a week. And then the Karuk Tribe, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the New York Tribe are collectively monitoring the main stem Klamath for carcass surveys, reds, et cetera, currently, just as the effort has been below Iron Gate Dam. And then for future research or future monitoring that we have planned is starting in 2025, we will install outmigrant traps in these tributaries. in Shovel Creek, Jenny Creek, Scotch and Cramp Creek, and Bogus Creek. Now we have plans for Fall Creek is included or mentioned for having an outmigrant trap in our monitoring plan, but we don't anticipate installing that in 2025 because we want to minimize handling of the hatchery fish that are being released from Fall Creek Hatchery. But that is something that we might install at a future date. So again, we'll be producing abundance estimates and other biometric data and tagging fish from in those traps. And most of these are probably going to be spike style traps, as you can see here, installed at Bogus Creek. At present, it doesn't appear that an RSD would be appropriate for, or a rotary screw trap would be appropriate for these locations, but that might change. The monitoring plan also includes a main stem rotary screw trap for monitoring juvenile outmigration. And U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and has been working with partners to monitor juvenile outmigration in the main stem below Iron Gate Dam. And there has been a proposal to potentially move one of their RSTs into the dam removal reach above Iron Gate in the main stem. And so that would be potentially operated by them. And we will just see as the data comes in if that is sufficient to meet the requirements of fulfilling the monitoring plan. Oh, okay, before oopsie, I jumped ahead. Okay, these are some preliminary results that everyone was excited about hearing, and you've heard a little bit about today of fish in Oregon. I do want to mention that when we talk about using this monitoring plan to evaluate the success of the project, we're talking about 12 years, right? And that was mentioned by Dave Kaufman, and I was supposed to say that earlier, but I forgot. So that's 3 generations for Chinook and steelhead and 4 generations for coho. And so we're going to be collecting these data in those 12 years. And then after 12 years, trying to evaluate whether our volitional reintroduction efforts have been successful. So just to make sure that that's clear. But this is really exciting, and I wanted to leave everyone with something exciting, which is, they've reported about 115 maximum daily counts of Chinook in Spencer Creek from ODFW. And I think someone's going to be updating on ODFW later, so that's all I'm going to say about that. But I put little filled-in fish on this map to indicate where they've noted Chinook observations, and where we're currently at for our California tributaries. We have filled in fish noted on our conceptual model of where we're seeing Chinook presently. So 36 Chinook in Shovel Creek as of October 25th, 144 Chinook in Jenny Creek as of October 23rd, 266 in Bogus Creek as of October 27th. And so this is all based on our video weir data that we've collected in these tributaries to date. It does take time to review that footage. So there's a little bit of a delay in that. But yeah, with that, I will take any questions.
Hello, I just wanted to ask something around the success of the monitoring plan, and if there are parameters to determine success based on wild runs or hatchery-based fish.
So there are both in that, and so I think initially the goal is for reintroduction to happen volitionally from wild populations. That said, there is a mix of hatchery and wild stocks at present, and so there are both hatchery outcomes and wild stock outcomes that are set in the monitoring plan.
I'm wondering how much thought is being put in at this early date into spring Chinook versus fall Chinook reintroduction. And I've been thinking a lot, and everyone's rightfully super excited about seeing fall Chinook approaching the Oregon border, passing the Oregon border. But, my understanding is, from our partners doing genetics work at UC Davis and others, that for spring Chinook to be competitive, they really need exclusive access to habitat. And I suspect that historically there may have been some low flow barriers that kept fall Chinook from getting very far into Oregon, that may have been modified when the dams were put in or otherwise. And it just, I think the excitement is contagious, but I feel concerned about losing track of the ultimate goal of the reestablishment of spring Chinook as a viable population in the Klamath River.
And so the California Department of Fish and Wildlife is currently only focused on raising fall run at this point. And I think ODFW and the Klamath tribes and among others have voiced a desire to, an interest in spring Chinook, as you have. And if and when that decision is made, they're taking lead on that at this point, and we're going to follow. We're right now just focused on maintaining the fall Chinook work that we've done, and the Fall Creek hatchery is only, I think, permitted for 5, potentially 8 years. And so that's kind of where we're at this point on hatchery.
The springers are on the California ESA list. We feel like California has an obligation to have some kind of recovery strategy, and maybe that includes augmentation from hatcheries, but it also could include making sure that springers are in streams from between the Salmon River and the state line. You don't have to sit and wait for ODFW and somebody else to do it, because they are listed in California.
It may also include needing to put pressure on ODFW to maintain for instance, to modify that in a way that favors spring Chinook.
I thank Rosemary for sharing this information.